Oh man, we really going there? All right. You guys have been filling up my inbox with this Fat Joe and Tupac thing and Biggie. I'm like, oh wow, really? March 9th was just a couple days ago. Sinuses, boy. Weather changing. You know, that springtime is coming now. Man, it's allergy season like crazy. But alright, let's talk about it. Y'all want to know that I hear Fat Joe talk about the diss record stuff. Yes, you guys have informed me. Fat Joe said that him and Biggie made diss records for Tupac and everything else. So, as I always do, we always go back to the beginning. Okay? That's what we're going to do here. Go all the way back to the beginning. Now, alright. Now, we're going to go back to all the way to the beginning. See, back when oof, man, tired. Back in the day, there was a lot of different things transpiring. And I want you guys definitely to hit the like button, subscribe to the Patreon, which is the Carcino for Life Patreon, and definitely you can hit on my Cash App, which is Carcino, as we get ready to get into this. Now, Fat Joe has been out for so many years, people don't even realize how old Fat Joe really is. Fat Joe was out in the 80s. Okay, when LL Cool J was out, Fat Joe the Gangster was out. You know, like when I'm Bad was out, Fat Joe the Gangster's on mixtape making Mash Your Toes. You know, like those records. He's carrying a baseball bat, you know. He was mostly a street dude from the block, from the Bronx. You know, just Spanish Harlem. I mean, not Spanish Harlem, but you know what I mean. All the Puerto Ricans out there in the Bronx getting it in. The Latin quarters and all that stuff. So anyway, long story short, Tupac knew of Fat Joe the Gangster, Joey Crack, is what they used to call him. Yo, Crack, what's up, Joey Crack? So Pac used to mess with Joey Crack back when he come back to New York, back in the early 90s, like 91, 92, back when he was filming Juice. Some of his Latino buddies that he knew was like part Latin Kings. Those dudes was tied in with Joey Crack, and you know, when they was performing and doing their little show or whatever, that's when, you know, he was hollering at them and everything else. When he was doing Juice, he was working on his album and was talking about his album finna hit and all that, and they knew each other since Digital Underground, and then Cypress Hill was just starting to come up. So Cypress and all of them, they was all on one show. They met, you know, everybody was tight, knew each other from walks of life. And Pac knew, like, they were plugged. That was like his Latino plug to everything. He'd go see him. He'd be, oh, call Joe and this and that. So they was always cool. Pac came back and forth to New York. He used to go to L.A., come back to New York, go back to L.A., go to New York, because he knew where to go, how to move. He knew people. He was connected. He was the bridge. There was only one other person that was from the West Coast that could move around like that on the East Coast, and that was Ice-T before him. You know what I'm saying? Because Ice-T had the LA streets, and he was in New York doing his thing, and he was the first bridge. between the two. Like if they needed something, they would all take like turn to iced tea, you know, like explain to these dudes what's what. So Fat Joe and Pac had a relationship long before Biggie got there. Biggie and them met basically when it was Biggie, Pac, they were all hanging out together when they met up again. So Pac was really the one that brought them in with Puff and everything else. And when he was working, when Heavy D was up there at Uptown. So it was a different time, but he was cool with Pac. They were brothers way before he met Big and got established with Big. Now, Big and him became tighter later on, but when Pac got arrested and was in jail, Fat Joe and the Latinos made sure he was straight. They had guys that was locked up. Fat Joe was like, yo man, look out for my guy, man, Pac and this and that. So Fat Joe looked out for him while he was up at Rikers. You know, he had some of his guys look out for him, made sure he was straight, gave him a little whatever he needed when he was up at Rikers. Now, when he came out, you know, it was all this static because this is all before he got shot. Pac gets shot. He goes basically from getting shot, going to trial in a wheelchair, to going to jail. So now that he's in jail, you know, he's basically healing. So he's still recovering from his wounds. So while he's in jail, he don't go like straight in. He's going into a rehabilitational part before he got to go back into actual jail. You know, report to jail after being shot. So when this is going on, he gets out and he's on this, you know, F the East Coast and start dropping Hit 'em Up and all this stuff on Big. You know, at this time, Biggie and Puff, they like the biggest thing in New York. They the biggest thing in New York. So Fat Joe made a decision to side with Big, because they would basically keep them, you know, get them some money to be security on some shows, and all this stuff was going on. So when Biggie was going up to the top of the mountain, they was trying to hitch their wagon on to the bad boy train. That's what Fat Joe was doing. It wasn't like he was just, oh, Biggie's my guy and all that. No, he was linking Terror Squad with Bad Boy so that Puff can, you know, look out for them and make sure they were straight. Like, oh, we protected Big, you know, like, yeah, we down with Big and all that, so Big gonna be down with us. So Big was spitting songs on them that time when, you know, Wu-Tang and, you know, Ray and Ghost kind of had a problem with Big and all this and stuff. They came there to protect and ride with Big. You know, ride for him and team up with some of them Junior Mafia dudes, because Wu-Tang had the numbers, you know. So Terror Squad dudes came down there, you know, dudes from the Bronx, and they had Biggie's back. So Big went to the studio when he started making these songs, and I don't know about that double CD. They were supposed to do the Twins album with Biggie and Fat Joe, but that stuff got put to the burner. So, you know, they kept saying that's what they was gonna do, but Big was just laying some verses down, you know, on some of his tracks, because he was, you know, being true to his word, is, you know, being down and protecting Big and all this stuff and looking out for him. So Big spit some bars for him, you know, when they had some tracks, and they would go in on Pac. Now, one of those verses you guys have heard already. The Dangerous MCs. You've heard that verse already. Bandana tattoos. But my fists never bruise. Ask who's the best, watch them say Papa Berry. I'm gonna like I was saying. Now all of a sudden, everybody's Big Willie done did it. Come with it and get your lips with it. Get your head split. Admit it. You overdid it. It just ain't got that loud. Go to shine like Tadal. Biggie Smalls the illest head how French braid your eyebrow. By now you figure he talking about that nigga. Whoo, man, it was vicious. Vicious. All these lines are vicious, but Big was just venting to get it out of his system because Puff was never going to let him release none of this. The stuff wasn't going to come out, so stuff started to leak out on mixtapes. Puff had to put an end on it, like, no, man, don't fall into the trap. Don't do it, Big. Because Puff looking at the money. Man, we can't go against this dude. You know, not like this. If we give into that, then we going back and forth. Then it's going to be East Coast versus West. I want to get the West Coast money and the East Coast money. I ain't trying to mess up none of my money. Man, you can't. He crazy. He ain't thinking right. This dude crazy. He going to pull you down with him. So he ain't gonna pull me. Puff was dead serious on this. Now, here's the thing. So Fat Joe is spitting mad venom on Pac. You know, doing all this. This is a dude that looked out for him in jail. Everything, right? So he feel like Pac turned his back on New York, so he gonna ride against Pac, right? So Pac is in the West Coast, right? They got the MTV Awards coming up. They nominated, Death Row's nominated for everything, and this is the first time Pac has been in New York since Hit 'Em Up has dropped. And people like, he was in Saturday Night Live. When Saturday Night Live aired, Hit 'Em Up did not drop. He had his double CD out, but Hit 'Em Up did not drop. There was no problem with new Tupac coming back to New York, but he still wanted to be safe and make sure. But there was no like everybody's after him type of thing. It was like, okay, we know who he got beef with. He really didn't go after him on the All Eyes on Me album. He just put out a record and dropped some subliminals. But he really didn't go after nobody. Then Hit 'Em Up drop. This was the first time he was coming back to New York after Hit 'Em Up drop. Now the scales didn't change. He know he just can't walk back in New York. So Fatal and all them dudes, they were already like back at the crib. So Fatal was able to get all them Jersey dudes that, you know, that they got on the block there. So all them dudes that you saw, them was all them Jersey guys that they had. Now, Greg Nice, you know what I'm saying, from Nice and Smooth, you know, he had already signed him to his label and was finna get, you know, put them out on his album. And he had Smith and Wesson and all those dudes from Duck Down, Buckshot, and all them guys. He was siding with them because they didn't get along with Biggie. So that was just what he needed, some allies from New York. But he trying to show New York, like, I don't hate New York, it's just them I got a problem with. So Greg Nice was like, man, New York still got love for you, man. He was like, man, matter of fact, give me the phone right now. He called up all the producers. He called up Easy Mo B. He was like, hey, man, yeah, I mean, they asking them all, like, man, you got love for Pac, huh? He was like, oh, yeah, man, we love Pac. Yeah, we spun him, you know, played him up and all this. What's his name? But, you know, they had to stop it. They tried to play it at a club. Puff was getting it stopped. But he was like, yeah, man, we play his records, man, we feel them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a hard record. But no, we got love for Pac, so they got Pac on the phone with everybody. So Pac was getting ready to come to New York. And he called up and tried to get as many allies as he could. So they were calling, he was hoping Method Man and Redman could have his back. You know what I'm saying? In this situation. And he couldn't really get them to commit to that, or they couldn't really get in contact with Meth and Red. And, you know, so they could have some more protection, but he got Fat Joe on there. So, and he was like, crack, what's up? Because Greg Nice hooked it up. And he was like, yo, I'm coming to New York. And he was talking about, you know, he wanted a united front. He doing a One Nation album with all the East Coast rappers on it and all this stuff. We finna end the beef and all this stuff, and, you know, end the wars and all that, because he's like, I've been misunderstood. I'm not at war with the entire New York, just people that siding with dude. This is personal. They don't understand it. That's cool, but it ain't got nothing to do with them. So he's saying he gonna set things straight. Now, while all this is transpiring, Fat Joe not once says to Tupac, yo man, I got all these diss records on you, man, and that's you bogus for what you did in New York. He had none of this energy. None of it. He's like, oh yeah, bro, man, you my brother, man. You know I love you, Pac. Huh? What? He out there kissing up the Pac. Fat Joe, Pac came out there to MTV. He over there bringing his guys with him, and they with the Jersey guys. They hanging out, and he's like the biggest Tupac groupie ever. Like, this man did not mention once that, to Tupac or anybody else, that he had records out here dissing Tupac with Biggie that he was recording. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying about these people? Now, right then and there, that should have told you everything about Fat Joe, Joey Crack. That's just low down. Talking about he the one that got them to Nas and Tupac to like he was mediating anything. He wasn't doing. I don't know. Fat Joe have delusions of grandeur. he wasn't the reason of any of that happening. But I guess in his mind he believes he's the one that brought Nas and Tupac together to talk. But okay. But my thing is, why didn't you tell Pac about your diss records? You know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't never mentioned that. That's pretty wild. That is pretty wild. So, go ask Fat Joe that question, y'all. Instead of asking me that, I hope this answered y'all questions for you. So, it just gives you an example of how Fat Joe was. Ask Fat Joe, why you ain't tell Pac that you had the diss records on him? That you had dropped those tracks on him? That you was making songs dissing him while you kissing his ass when he talking to you? Because he thought he was under the impression y'all was still cool. He never said nothing to you. He actually said you held him down in New York. So he ain't never dissed you. Why'd you come at him so strong enough to team up with Big and start dissing him without even talking to him? You see what I'm saying? Don't forget to hit the like button, man. Subscribe to the page. Hit that notification bell. And if you haven't joined the Patreon, the Carcino for Life Patreon has been on fire. I'm going to do a live stream over there soon, but I'm out. I don't want to keep y'all too long.